Taking the phone out of the box, one of the first things you'll notice with this blacked out version is that the side rails are now completely black, like a very matte finish. If you compare this to every other color for the Galaxy S25 Ultra, you'll see that it's a very shiny finish on the side. So this black finish looks so much better. Another important thing to know about all of the Galaxy S25 Ultras is they now have a completely flat screen all the way out to the very edges of the phone. If you look at the Galaxy S24 Ultra, for example, it was a pretty flat screen, but right when you got to the edges, it started to kind of roll off a little bit. So we now have a fully flat display. And if you compare this to an iPhone, you can see that the sides do look very similar with that perfectly flat sides. The rounded corners are not quite as rounded on the S25 Ultra as they are on the iPhone, but they're certainly more rounded than the corners on the S24 Ultra. The bottom of the S Pen is black to match the body of the device, and if we take that out, you'll see it has a tannish white accent color. And when you compare this to the S Pen from the S24 Ultra, you'll notice that the tip is a bit thicker on the S25 Ultra's S Pen versus the S24 Ultra. And that's it for physical differences when looking at the S Pens, but on the inside we do get a massive difference. The S Pen on the S25 Ultra does not have Bluetooth support anymore. So that means you can't use the S Pen to do things like take pictures, change your camera modes, switch between your favorite pen styles in the Samsung Notes app, or any other feature that required that Bluetooth connectivity. Samsung says only 1% of their users actually use the Bluetooth functionality in the S Pen, but I'm one of those 1%, so it is pretty disappointing to me. For other physical differences, the two microphones at the top of the S25 Ultra are a bit closer than the microphones on the S24 Ultra. And on the bottom, you'll see a slightly larger speaker on the S25 Ultra, and the SIM ejector hole has been moved to the other side. A place where I disagree with some other reviewers is in the weight. So technically, the S25 Ultra is about 15 grams lighter than the S24 Ultra, and personally, I can't really tell the difference when holding the two devices in my hand. I think the difference they're feeling has to do more with the sides of the devices being flat versus rounded, because that does really make a very big difference with how this phone feels in your hand. And the S25 Ultra is technically a little less wide than the S24 Ultra as well, so maybe it's a combination of the flat sides and the slightly slimmer design that's making them feel like it's actually noticeably lighter. Besides the obvious change of these new rings around the cameras, the S25 Ultra also gets a brand new 50 megapixel sensor instead of a 12 megapixel sensor for the ultra-wide camera. And I've already done some testing with my S25 Ultra review unit, so I'll be able to share some of those samples with you guys in this video. And spoiler alert, even though the other cameras are the exact same sensors on both the old and new device, Samsung's new processor is able to make a noticeable improvement to the cameras on the new phone versus the old phone. Specifically, I noticed more detail in really zoomed in shots, as well as a better dynamic range, meaning you get more details in the dark and light areas of your photos. And while Samsung keeps the same anti-reflective coating on the screen of the S25 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra, they did improve the strength of the glass, upgrading from Gorilla Armor to Gorilla Armor 2. And that's actually pretty significant because I don't have a single scratch after a year with my S24 Ultra, so the fact that this is even stronger is incredible. And just to really drive the point home with the screen reflectivity, the iPhone is so much more reflective than the S25 Ultra. Like, that is a massive difference. And this does make a significant difference in how easy it is to see the screen on a bright day, even at lower brightness levels, which will help save some battery life. You can get the S25 Ultra in 256, 512, and 1TB storage options, and all of those come with 12 gigabytes of RAM. And the pricing starts at about $1,300 and goes all the way up to $1,660 if you get that 1TB option. That said, Samsung is having massive pre-order deals right now, so you can get this for significantly less if you trade in a previous generation S Ultra series device. Then you could save a ton more money with Samsung's huge bundle deals. And my exclusive $50 bonus credit links are still available in the description and pinned comment for a few more days, so you can use those if you want to save a bit more money. Just remember that those are for the US only, and they expire in 30 minutes. So if you notice that the discount disappears on you, you'll have to just click the link again, and you'll get that $50 bonus credit again. Powering the device on for the first time, we get this much better looking, colorful welcome screen. Previously, it would just be some plain white screen, so it's nice to see some improvements here. This is where we'll also see our first noticeable difference between the S24 Ultra and the S25 Ultra, and that has to do with these bezels. This is really noticeable in person, the smaller bezels on the S25 Ultra, and that allows the S25 Ultra to have a 6.9-inch display versus the 6.8-inch display on the S24 Ultra, even though the new phone is technically smaller than the old phone. Something that I will say is a little bit of a benefit with the silver sides on the non-blacked out S25 Ultra is that it gives the illusion that the bezels are actually smaller on the silver version versus the all blacked out version. And even though these frames look entirely different, they are both still made out of titanium. Now I'm going to transfer all my data from my S24 Ultra to the S25 Ultra, and the fastest way to do that is going to be with Samsung's Smart Switch application, which comes pre-installed on your devices. So first I need to eject the SIM tray and install the SIM card from my old phone. Once you do that, you'll be prompted to restart your device, so go ahead and do that. Once the phone restarts, you can go ahead and tap Start. And when you get to this page here, if your old device is a Samsung device and it's nearby, you'll get that little setup pop-up. Then you can just tap Setup. Then your new phone will show a QR code, so just go ahead and scan that with the old phone. Then just use the unlock pattern or password from your previous device. And as you continue through the setup process, you'll eventually get to this page here where you can immediately transfer everything, including all of your messages, videos, pictures, files, all of it. Just your calls, contacts, and messages, or you can select custom, which I personally prefer. Now you can choose which specific things you want to transfer. This includes selecting how far back you want to go in the messages you want to transfer, choosing specific apps to transfer, and even transferring over any of your Samsung accessories like Galaxy watches or earbuds. If you check these, those will automatically be transferred over to the new device. And you can also transfer all of your settings, your home screen layout, and even pick which specific images, videos, audio files, and documents you want to send. Once you've selected everything, you'll be shown how much data you're going to transfer and about how long it's going to take to transfer all of that data. So from here, just tap Transfer, and it's all going to transfer in the background. And while that's transferring in the background, you'll be able to finish setting up your phone. And now that my phone's set up, you'll see that the wallpaper already transferred over, and all of the apps are being dropped into place to match my old phone. And if I pull down my notification shade, I'll be able to see how much time is left for the transfer, and if I tap it, I'll get details on what specifically is being transferred. And the best thing about Smart Switch is that you could use it at any time. So even after this transfer completes, all I'd have to do is open up the Smart Switch application again on both devices, and I could start a new transfer to transfer different data. So while everything's getting set up in the background, I do want to go through the software here and show you guys a few new things with One UI 7. The first is something I'm sure you've already seen before, and it's that your notification shade and quick panel are now on two different sides. So swipe down from the left for the notification shade and the right for the quick panel. Then you can just swipe left or right between them if you already have one pulled down. If we take a look back at the quick panel, you'll now be able to long press on the brightness and get some extra brightness options. And the same for the media volume. If you long press on that, you get some media specific features. If we jump into the camera app, you'll see that it's now a completely new interface on the S25 Ultra. So your modes are now easier to reach at the bottom. And if you go to the More menu, it's actually now just at the very bottom instead of taking up your whole screen. And that definitely makes it easier to reach up into the different modes. The S25 Ultra now also has HDR on by default, and that's going to give you more details in the really bright and dark areas of your video compared to non-HDR footage. And since we have that new 50 megapixel sensor, if we switch to 8K video recording, you'll see that we can now record at 0.6 times zoom instead of just 1 times and 5 times like on the S24 Ultra. And that's also true for the slow motion mode. If I jump into here, you can see that I can film at 240 frames per second at 0.6, 1 times, 3 times, or 5 times zoom on the S25 Ultra. On the S24 Ultra, you're limited to 1 time zoom. So at first glance, there are definitely some significant improvements to the camera on the S25 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra. And I haven't even gotten any samples yet, so let's take a quick look at those. Since the ultra-wide camera can now take photos at 50 megapixels, you're able to zoom in a lot more on those ultra-wide photos and still keep a lot of detail. But what's even more interesting is that you get a lot more details in the dark and light areas of the images. And this is true for both the really wide shots and the up-close macro photos. And when you take long zoom photos, like 100 times zoom, you'll not only get better color accuracy, but you'll also get more detail in the dark areas of the photos on the S25 Ultra. Even with low light photos, the S25 Ultra sees some significant upgrades with a better job capturing motion. You can see that the S25 Ultra consistently gets less blurry images of cars passing by. And this improved motion blur also carries over into video as well. So generally speaking, you should get better low light photos and videos with the S25 Ultra compared to the S24 Ultra. Swiping up on your home screen reveals another big change, and is that we now have a vertical scrolling option instead of the horizontal scrolling option on the S24 Ultra. However, if you jump into the settings down in the bottom right corner and tap Sort and switch to Custom Order, that does switch it back to a horizontal swiping option. But if you decide to keep the vertical option, if you scroll your finger on this bar on the side, you'll be able to quickly jump to a specific letter. Even the app icons are completely different on the S25 Ultra. Personally, I think the new icons look great, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Swiping up to reveal our recent applications also shows a new change with the S25 Ultra, and it's that the previous applications are in more of a card stack style versus a horizontal scrolling style like on the S24 Ultra. The S25 Ultra also gets some massive performance gains over the S24 Ultra. And taking a look at these SolarBay benchmark scores, you can see that the ray tracing performance on the S25 Ultra really does get massive gains. And scrolling down a bit here, compared to the iPhone 15 Pro, even the S24 Ultra was significantly more powerful, but the S25 Ultra has almost double the performance of the iPhone 15 Pro. Now granted, we don't have the 16 Pro Max to compare to, but these numbers are still ridiculous. So if you're big into gaming, the S25 Ultra will be a notable upgrade. Not to mention, there's also a 40% larger vapor chamber in the S25 Ultra compared to the S24 Ultra as well. And that'll keep your device cooler so you can get longer gaming sessions with less throttling. When it comes to opening and closing different apps, both the devices are equally as fast as each other. The S25 Ultra isn't noticeably faster at all. And that's because these are pretty basic tasks, and the S24 Ultra already had a great processor for these simple things. Something that doesn't get an improvement with the S25 Ultra is the battery capacity, still stuck at 5,000 mAh. That said, the battery life on this thing has been pretty incredible with nearly 24 hours of usage so far, and I still have 61% left. Now granted, I haven't been using this very heavily. If I tap to view details here, you'll see that I only have about an hour and a half of screen on time. So what this really demonstrates is that the standby time on this is incredible. But I'll still need to do more testing to see how the battery drains with heavier usage. Alright, I'm back after a few more days of testing out the battery life on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, and as you guys can see, I get just shy of 2 days with pretty light usage. If we take a look at my screen on time, you can see that it's less than 5 hours over those 2 days. So obviously, with some more usage, you're going to get less than 2 days of battery life. And in another test, I just let YouTube play for 4 straight hours on my desk, giving me a total of about 5 hours of screen on time. Then after 17 total hours of being unplugged, I still have 62% left. So at the current rate, I'm looking at least 9 hours of screen on time before the battery dies, which is certainly more than I got on my Galaxy S24 Ultra. And that solidly puts this phone into full day battery life territory. Even with a bunch of gaming and taking photos and videos, I'd be really surprised if you could kill this battery in less than a day. For my charge test, I ran the battery down to about 2%, then plugged the phone into a super fast charging 2.0 charger. And after 30 minutes, the phone charged to 67%. And the whole time it was charging, I was also on a Bluetooth phone call. So if I wasn't on the phone at the same time, I probably could have gotten to 70% in just that 30 minutes. And getting to 100% took almost exactly an hour. But again, because I had that really long phone call, it's probably going to be less than an hour to get from 2% to 100%, which is definitely faster than it was on my S24 Ultra. And I think part of the reason for that could be the larger vapor chamber, allowing the phone to stay cooler while charging. Because as the phone heats up, the charging slows down. When it comes to screen quality, the S25 Ultra is exactly the same as the S24 Ultra with the exact same resolution. The only difference is with the durability of the screen thanks to the Gorilla Armor 2 that I mentioned earlier. After a few days of using the Galaxy S25 Ultra, there are a few really important things I noticed. First, since the device isn't as wide, even though the screen is technically larger, it feels easier to reach all the way to the other side of the device. I've also noticed that the screen feels much smoother to run my fingers across. Like my fingers just glide a lot easier on the S25 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra. And I'm wondering if I accidentally removed some of the oleophobic coating on my S24 Ultra when I was cleaning off the screen, not using just water. So if you happen to have both an S24 Ultra and S25 Ultra, I'm curious to know what your experience is in the comments below. Does the glass feel exactly the same to you, or does the S25 Ultra feel a lot smoother? And while I almost always keep my phones in a case, especially because I have 4 young children, I've noticed that when the phone is not in the case, the corners are a lot more comfortable to hold. They just don't poke into my hand as much as the corners did on the S24 Ultra. But again, if you always use a case, you're not going to notice that difference. And in case you're wondering, this specific case is the Torres 360 Spin magnetic case. This isn't sponsored, it just happens to be the case that I'm using on my S25 Ultra. As you can see, there's a little kickstand here, and the coolest part about this case and the reason why I purchased it is, one, this is a MagSafe magnet, so I can connect a bunch of things to it, but two, the stand actually rotates, so you can stand your phone up at basically any angle you want, and it locks into each position that it rotates to. And the other reason I purchased it is because when you look at the cameras up here, you see that they're fully recessed behind the case, so they are protected, but the case is also flat. There's no extra bump here, and that means you can connect accessories like external battery packs, and there's no camera bezel pushing the accessory up. That's not the case with all MagSafe cases, because if I try to put this charger on this one, you'll see that the lip for the cameras does push the charger up a little bit. It'll still work, it just won't hold on quite as securely. And one last important detail with this case is that it doesn't affect the S Pen, which is a problem with most MagSafe cases. So again, this case isn't sponsored at all, but if you guys want to pick it up, I will leave an affiliate link in the description and pinned comment for you. And actually, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about MagSafe cases in general. Is it something you guys are really interested in, or do you not really care about MagSafe stuff? Something that surprised me with the S25 Ultra was the improvement to the speakers. They're noticeably more full with a much stronger bass compared to the S24 Ultra. And I can't quite demonstrate that here because of copyright reasons, but I will get some copyright-free music for my full comparison between the S24 Ultra and S25 Ultra. And let me know in the comments below what you guys want to know about the S25 Ultra versus the S24 and S23 Ultra, because I do read through those comments and that does help shape what's included in my upcoming videos. I'm still going to need some more time to give a definitive answer on whether or not the S25 Ultra is worth the upgrade from the previous generation devices, but after about a week, I can say you're pretty safe to upgrade to it from the Galaxy S22 Ultra. You will see a big difference in the camera quality coming from this device, and Samsung has some massive trade-in deals right now, so you can get a good amount of money for your S22 Ultra. If you're coming from an S24 Ultra, I'd say maybe hold off this year, especially because a lot of the software updates that come with the S25 Ultra are going to make their way to the S24 Ultra with the One UI 7 update. You won't get all the new features, but you will get a lot of them. If you're coming from an S23 Ultra, that one's a bit more of a toss-up, and I'm going to have to do my full camera comparison and performance tests with these three devices to give a definitive answer, so stay tuned to the channel for that video. In the meantime, if you want to see 30 brand new features on the Galaxy S25 Ultra that are not available on any of the previous generation devices, you can check out this video here. And consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss the rest of my Galaxy S25 Ultra coverage. That's it for this tech-isode. Jesus loves you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.